And the other reason as to why we keep having to borrow so much money is that we lose about 800 billion in this country every year to corruption. So again, if we are hoping to spend 3.8 billion, nobody puts corruption. There's no line item for corruption on the income statement. So what happens is that if we wanted to spend, like last year, right? We wanted to spend 134 billion, or at least the government told us that they spent 134 billion on healthcare, right? Out of a budget of 3.8 trillion, the government said we're putting aside 130 billion for healthcare. But you've seen my updates in terms of corruption that took place. The government is telling us that there was a certain patient who delivered 10,860 babies in 1 year, in connection to which they spent 41 million to cover that. I mean, we have a government that is just so corrupt. It's unbelievable. So they are telling us there was a patient who received 10,860 deliveries, babies in 1 year. One patient. There was another patient that they spent a lot of money on who received 656 babies through C-section. Another patient where they spent 51 million received 2,808 procedures in various hospitals at the same time on the same dates. That's your Ministry of Health. And so I'm giving you these examples to tell you that even when the government is telling you that we've spent 130 billion, a lot of that 130 billion is going to corruption. So when you look at how much is actually going to serve citizens, in this 3.8 billion is very little. I want to make a quick point about the issue of debt service, why it's very destructive. So last year when we were spending 3.8 trillion as a country, and we are spending 1.6 trillion of that on debt service. We spent 130 billion for healthcare. Think about that. For every 1 shilling we spent on healthcare, we spent 12 on debt service. Can you imagine that? A country spending 12 shillings for every shilling that it spends on healthcare is spending 12 on debt service. For every shilling last year that we spent on education, we spent about 3 on debt service, right? That's where we are today. So it's disastrous. You don't need to be a genius to see that.